Hi everyone, this is Mindy Egan for Honeybee Stamps, and in today's video I'm playing with a brand new product that comes out on August 25th, and this is called the Bountiful Banner. Now there's actually a collection that can go with this. There's the stamp set, there's a coordinating die for the sentiments and that floral arrangement, but then there's also a separate die and kind of that embossing plate, and then a coordinating stencil. Now you don't have to get all of them, but they all do work together to create a beautiful card project. I'm just going to be using the stamp and the coordinating die. I haven't done any Copic coloring for quite a while, so I thought this was a great chance to do that because the areas are fairly small to color in and should go pretty quick. Now I am prepping or conditioning my stamp with my hand to wipe off any kind of residual residue that might be on there from the manufacturing process. And then I'm going to ink up this image onto I'm using intense black ink because it's Copic friendly, and I'm stamping it down onto some Express It cardstock, which is a super smooth cardstock. I've really been enjoying using this lately for my markers because the ink doesn't absorb into the cardstock quite like it does with maybe 80-pound cardstock. You choose whatever kind of cardstock works best for you. Now, just previously I had shown you there are some kind of ink swatches that I like to do with my coloring. So I just went through and picked out some colors that were going to match the image that image in my mind that I had of this set. I really wanted to create a nice rich color in fall themed. So that is what I'm going to do today. Now I started out with a set of leaves. I'm going to color the leaves in a couple different shades. For this one, I am doing G28, YG67, and YG63. I think I end up not using the YG67 afterwards. I started off by coloring in the leaves with my lightest color, and then all I'm going to do is take that G28 and just add a line on one side of the leaf to give it that look of dimension. I'm really not going to be doing a ton of blending on this. For me to add shadow to my coloring, I'm just going to be adding a line of that darkest color that I choose. Now, what I really love about this design is how symmetrical this is. So for instance, my leaves, there's one on the top, and then you flip the cardstock and there's one in the exact same space underneath the banner. So I'm going to make sure that whatever leaf I'm coloring up top, I'm going to use those same colors and color that exact same leaf on the bottom half. That's really going to create a lot of balance in your card. Now I moved on to another shade of green. This one is a YG99 and YG95. I don't think it's a very popular color combination. I don't see it a lot in images. It kind of has almost like a lemongrass look to it or olivey type of look, and I thought it was perfect for this fall color combination that I wanted to do. Now, once again, in that same color combination, whatever set of leaves I colored up on top is what I'll color below that banner. So I went through, kind of looked for another set of leaves on the other side of the cardstock on the left-hand side here to color in to try and balance out these colors. And now I'm going to bring in kind of this rusty orange color. And to do this one, I started out with YR27 as my lightest color. I did E08, and then afterwards I'm going to come in with an E18 and just really lightly add flicks of that brown just to kind of help give it more of a fall vibe and help deepen that shadow area a little bit. So I really love that color combination for these leaves. There's also these sprigs up on top that I'm going to use my E08 and just color those in. Those are really small and go really quick. I don't add any other color to those. I didn't write it down, but I did a dark yellow to add in some of those other small areas of the sprigs that are sticking out. And then for the flowers, and I knew this right off the bat when I saw this image, is that I wanted to do a really deep red. So I started off with R35. I laid that color down first, and I just start with the one image because I wasn't exactly sure how it was going to look. Looks great in my mind, but let's see if it worked on paper. And then I'm coming in with R39 and just doing flicks out from the center. Now I wanted to add just a little bit more depth to that, so I came in with an R59, and then I went through and colored in the rest of the flowers with those same colors, and then added that bit of yellow into the centers. Now, I don't normally stamp back over my coloring images, but I thought since I didn't take my stamp out yet, I would go ahead and ink that image up again with the intense black ink and stamp that down. And it's really going to just make everything more intense, just like the ink pad suggests, intense black. So I stamped that down, and I'm just going to leave it as that. I'm not going to stamp it anymore after this as far as the outlines. I think that also helped bring everything to the forefront. I picked out a sentiment off of that stamp set that's going to fit right inside of that banner. I had debated about coloring in that banner, but decided to just leave it for now. Once again, I conditioned that stamp with my finger. I prepped the cardstock with an anti-static powder tool, and then I'm going to stamp this down, just applying a really light pressure. It is a brand new stamp. I have not used this sentiment before, so I am going to stamp that one more time to make sure I'm getting a really good impression. Since it's a clear ink, I can't really see it, so I figure by stamping it twice, I should be pretty good. Then I'm going to sprinkle on some of this, I think it's called Gilded Gold Embossing Powder from Brutus Monroe. I sprinkle that on, tap from underneath to really let that settle into the ink, and then I can melt that with my heat tool. Now at this point, you might see a mistake on my sentiment, and I'll get to that in just a moment. For right now, I had taken the coordinating die, lined that up, and die cut that out. And this is going to die cut out that entire area. So this is going to be great for adding directly to your card fronts. So it kept everything together, which I really love, and it covers an A2 size card perfectly. Now, I do have a piece of toffee or craft cardstock that I'm going to use for my card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I decided I wanted to add some white splatter to this. So I diluted my white paint with some water, and I'm adding the splatters to the background. Now, a lot of that is going to be covered up by my image, but I really wanted to have kind of some of that subtle splatter around the edges. I also came in with some white gold. That was the Starry Colors Gansai Tambi palette. So I added that. That's drying. I did off screen go ahead and die cut another panel so I can layer these together because the Expressive cardstock is not very heavy. So that's going to add a little stability to my image. Then I'm taking some white foam squares and I'm adding them to the back, and I'm going to place this over my splattered background. Now, it was about this point that I noticed I did not do a very good job stamping my sentiment, and I hadn't noticed until this point when I was kind of sitting back looking at my card. Now, thankfully, there is a separate banner die in that coordinating die set, and this was a perfect opportunity for me to just play around with some colored cardstock. I picked out a different sentiment because, well, it's a different one. So I stamped this down onto some dark brown cardstock in the embossing ink once again, prepped the cardstock, and this time I was really making sure to press my fingers over everything to get that good coverage. Doing this on colored cardstock is also super helpful because you can really see that embossing ink. So I could tell if I had missed anything right away. I did it on this dark brown cardstock, and I also gave myself another option by stamping it on some kind of dark orange colored cardstock. And then I used that coordinating banner die to die cut this out. So I'm kind of glad that I messed up in that stamping because this just gave me more options to play around with. And I didn't even really realize there was a banner die set in there until I really needed it to cover up my boo-boo. So I used my Bitty Buzz cutter to die cut out my sentiments, and then I brought that over to the front of my card and I played around with both ideas. I chose these colors because it kind of went with the color palette that I was doing. The orange was nice because it was kind of bringing my orange leaves to the forefront a little bit, but I honestly really liked the brown. The orange is pretty too, but I really liked the brown, so I added some black foam squares to the back of that and then placed that right over my banner. So coordinating dies saved my card today. I'm really happy actually with how the brown turned out. I like it better than leaving that stark white in the center. That finishes up my card project for you today, and this set will be available on the Honeybee Stamps website on August 25th. Thank you so much for joining me today.